Hi, welcome back. This is Mark Miranda, and of course, you know this course on marketing strategies here at Solo Practice University. I was going to this week get started on lectures about the use of seminars in marketing, educational seminars, but I got so much reaction and so many questions to my last lesson about fees that I thought it was worth exploring further, and then in my next lesson we'll get started on the seminars. But I'd like to explore further the question of fees. Let's start with this. About 95% of my clients and my potential clients, when I first meet them, are drastically underpriced. And why is that? Well, I think, I discussed some of the psychology behind it in our last lesson, that I think that because lawyering does not involve a lot of physical labor, it's very difficult for attorneys to feel the conviction inside themselves that what they do is worth the price they charge. They think, that's a couple hours of drafting, that's only worth $500. And they completely discount the value, the real value of their services, which is knowing what to do, giving the client the right advice, the right strategy, the right thing to do. And there is a story, it's pretty widespread, I think, in marketing and business, about the man who has the squeaky stair case, and every time he steps on this one particular stair, it squeaks at him, and it just is absolutely driving him crazy. He's tried everything he knows to fix it, and he's put, carpeting on the stairs, and he's, put different cushions there, and all of this kind of, tried to, kick it or bang on it in different ways, and it still squeaks every time, and it just drives him absolutely nuts. And finally he calls in a carpenter who looks carefully at the stair, pulls some nails out of his pocket, and hammers in a couple of places, and voila, the stair is fixed and it no longer squeaks. And the homeowner is delighted and asks for an invoice, and the carpenter says to him it'll be, $48. And the homeowner says, that's insane, that's ridiculous. It took you 30 seconds to do this. How can I owe you $48? And the carpenter says, well, I'll give you a detailed invoice. And he whips out a piece of paper and he writes, 2 nails, 4 cents, use of hammer, $1, and knowing where to hammer, $46.98, something like that. I don't know if I did that math right, but the point is that his knowledge of where to hammer and how to fix the problem was the real value in the relationship. It wasn't the time or labor that he charged for, it wasn't the materials, it was knowing where to hammer. So if you're an attorney, you have to understand that the bulk of your value is in knowing where to hammer, and that's what you are offering to the client, and that knowledge is impressive, and it's worth the price. So part of what I'm saying is that the first thing in charging high prices, good prices, prices that are will make you feel well compensated, is that you have to believe in the value of the service first. If you don't believe it, you're never going to be able to convey that to the clients. All right, the second point I want to make is that the clients are relying on you for your guidance, and not just for you to execute that which they tell you they want to do. What they really want is for you to tell them what it is that they should do, and to charge appropriately for that. And I'll give you a story from my own experience within the last couple of weeks. Very interesting. I wanted to buy a new mattress. I'd had mine for about 10 years, and it was starting to have all kinds of peaks and valleys in it, and it's time to buy a new mattress. So I went to the mattress store, and salesman greeted me and so on. And for the next hour or so, unfortunately, I went from one mattress to another, trying this one, trying that one, lying down on the bed, feeling very foolish in my business clothes, lying down on these mattresses, unable to make up my mind, utterly unable to make up my mind. I couldn't tell. This one felt a little softer, this one felt a little harder. And the salesman who was conducting me around the showroom kept saying, well, do you like this one better? Do you want it a little softer? Do you want it a little harder? What about this one over here? And he's getting a little bit frustrated with me, I think, because I can't make up my mind. And I'm getting frustrated with the process because I don't want to go through all of this and I don't know how to decide. And I saw another salesperson, maybe he was the manager or a senior salesperson, sitting over at a desk in the corner watching this whole process. And eventually he came over and he said to me, you need this one. I had the mattress. And I said, okay. And I bought that one. What's the point of that story? Really what I was looking for was guidance. And this guy had heard what I had to say, what kind of bed I liked. And, I had mentioned in the course of my conversation that I liked the beds in a certain hotel where I stayed pretty frequently and so on. And he had taken all this into consideration and said, you want this one, here. And that's all I needed. That's all I required. And of course I bought the mattress and sleep on it now every day. Your clients are looking to you for that kind of guidance, that kind of confidence, and your fee is going to be a big part of that. I'm not sure if, I know one story I told in the last segment was about jewelry stores and how only the price and the packaging really convey the value. Recently I've been reading this book. I highly recommend it to you. Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely. And he's a former Israeli commando, very, very interesting guy. This is a very, very interesting book in the field of behavioral economics. And that field in general, the premise of that field is that people make economic choices and exhibit certain tendencies and so on, not necessarily in response to the rules of the market or the rules of economic necessity, but sometimes in response to many other different kinds of forces, many of which are irrational and not really predictable. So, fascinating book. Anyway, there's one part inside this book I was reading that really seemed very relevant to our conversation about fees, and that is that there was a study, a pain study done in this hospital, and we had a group of patients, all of whom were experiencing high pain from various ailments, and they were split into two groups, and each group was given pills, and in each case the pills were placebos, they were sugar pills, so on. One group was told that the pills they were taking cost 10 cents each. The other group was told that the pills they were taking cost $3.50 each. And the result of the study, I'm going to shorten it considerably, but the result of the study was that the people who bought the more expensive pills, the $3.50 pills, experienced a much higher degree of pain relief than did the people who bought the 10-cent pills. So what does that tell you about your own pricing? One of the things it tells you is that not only are the prices important in the sales quotient and in your business development, of course, but also in the amount of client satisfaction, that people are going to be more satisfied with your services that they paid a higher price for. And a lot of this seems very counterintuitive because, we all think that the consumer in the marketplace is simply looking for the cheapest price they can get. and that they're going to be happy with that. And in fact, that's not true in many, many different sectors, and professional services is certainly one of them. So add that to the list of reasons of why you need to charge higher prices, is that your clients are going to be happier with your services and with the end product. So, do the math when you're thinking about it. Let's say that you've got 10 potential clients, and those 10 potential clients would all say yes to you at a price of $2,500 to do whatever it is you're going to do, a flat fee, a business formation, an estate plan, a divorce, whatever it is. At $2,500, all 10 prospects are going to say yes. At $5,000 price, half of them are going to walk because the price is too high for them. Well, what's the result there? Okay, it is that same amount of revenue, right? We're going to get $25,000 in revenue either way, and half the work. You have half the cases to handle, and you have that much more capacity to sell to somebody else. So when but you have to have the courage to let those people walk. So keep that in mind when you're talking about price too. And then the most important thing, I think, is simply the perception in the marketplace. It is, in many, many cases, products, services, whatever, the only thing that conveys your value to the marketplace is the price. Right? We made the analogy last time about the jewelry store. The only thing that tells you what the diamond is, what value it has, is the price. You figure somebody who should know has looked at this and determined what the price is, and that they know what it's worth. And people feel that way about you. You should know best what you're worth. You're the one that knows the value of the services. So you should dictate to the marketplace what those are, and you should be at the top end of your pricing structure in your area of the country, in your field of law, and so on. I had a consultation earlier this week with young couple of lawyers, young lawyers who just formed their own firm a few weeks ago, and they're doing franchise law, helping businesses to, they have a successful individual business and then to franchise that business. And the going rate for these kind of services is about a $30,000 to $35,000 retainer. And both of these lawyers had come from bigger firms that did this work and charged exactly that. And their strategy entering the marketplace was, we're going to do it for half price. We're going to do it for $17,500. And, and we're going to enter the market that way because we're young and inexperienced, and, we don't have much overhead, and we can afford to do it for that. And I told them I thought that was exactly the wrong strategy. First of all, imagine their potential client. Let's say it's a fellow who has a very successful tire store on Main Street in their town. And they want to approach this businessman and tell him, hey, we can franchise this tire store around the country. You can be a millionaire, you can make a lot of money, and, we need some money to get the whole franchise process started for our legal fee, and this is what we need in terms of money. Now, the guy who owns the tire store, he's no expert in legal services. He doesn't know anything about franchising either. He doesn't know what it costs to do a franchise. So it's not like he's already priced things out and he knows that the going rate is $35,000 and he's going to be all excited about the opportunity to do it for $17,000. Price is not what's going to drive his decision. It's going to be whether or not he thinks you can make him rich and whether or not he has confidence in you. And those things have very little to do with price. Also, what are these two young lawyers telling the marketplace by working for half price? They're saying, in effect, we're no good. We're not as good as these other guys that charge $30,000. And they more or less admitted that by saying their rationale for doing that was that they were sort of young and inexperienced. And now they're telling the marketplace, we're young and we're inexperienced. I don't know why anybody would hire them, and if they did hire them at that half price, I think that they could expect a very difficult relationship. So my advice to them was to, come right in at the top of the market at the $35,000 rate and say, hey, we're good, we're great. We apprenticed at these larger firms. We know what we're doing. We know how to do this. We'll devote our time and attention to you. Let's go for it. So they're telling the marketplace that, we're every bit as good as these big boys, and we know how to do it well. So be careful about your pricing and what signal is being sent to the marketplace. One of the questions that I got as a follow-up to last week was about how you deal with price shoppers. Some lawyers call them tire kickers. People who come into your office or call your office, and the only question they have, the only thing that's interests them is, what's your price? And they're clearly shopping for the lowest price. And there's a lot to say about these people. First of all, that most attorneys, most marketing experts believe that, first of all, those are not your most desirable clients. Those are not people that you particularly want as clients, so you shouldn't go out of your way really to accommodate them. And price cutting would be exactly the wrong signal to send those kind of people. However, I tend to view it a little bit more liberally. Somebody who inquires at your office is somebody who's interested in the service that you provide one way or another. So I think when they start talking about price right away, what you've got to do is redirect them quickly. So I experienced this in my own business, and when my potential clients, the first thing they want to discuss is price, I say to them, I'm glad to answer your question, and I'll answer it now, but first I'm going to tell you why that's the wrong question. Price is relative to benefit, right? If you spend $500 on a newspaper ad for your legal services and it gets you nothing, then that was expensive. If you spend $10,000 on a marketing campaign and it gets you $100,000 in revenue, then that was cheap. So cost is not an absolute, it's only relative to the benefit that you get. The other thing I tell my clients, and you should tell yours, is that focusing on cost from the beginning is disastrous. Why? Because we have built-in defense mechanisms. A fear of loss is one of the strongest ones that we have. And if you focus on price as money that you're going to lose, I'm going to give this money to you, I'm losing that money, then it's going to paralyze you with fear, and you're not going to do the thing that you need to do. So your car mechanic tells you, you need a new carburetor, it's going to cost $800. If you don't get the carburetor, your engine's going to seize up and you're going to lose the whole thing. You're going to have to get a whole new engine or a whole new car. And you don't act because you just can't bear the loss of the $800. You can't bear to give it up. Well, you're courting disaster, and many times you're going to have that disaster. So focusing on that $800 in that case is completely insane. And, for example, let's say you have a potential client in estate planning. One of the things you say to that kind of client is, look, if you're waiting for it to feel good, for you to write me a check as your lawyer for $2,000 or $5,000 or whatever the price is going to be, you might as well go home now and accept that you're never going to do any estate planning, because it's never going to feel good to write that check. Let's face it, the writing a personal check for that amount of money is painful. None of us likes it. We do it because it gets us something far better, far greater, whether it's peace of mind or avoidance of family squabbles or avoidance of taxes or whatever it is. It gets us something. But if you focus on that aspect of the relationship, if you just focus on the pain of that check, you're never going to do it. So go home now and, accept that you're going to die intestate. So you have to, I think, in those situations, simply redirect your client's thinking. This gets back to that mattress story I told you. They're looking to you for guidance. They're looking for you to whip them around a little bit, So you have to guide them, guide their thinking so that they focus on the right things and not simply on the lowest price. So, this is sort of part two of me urging you to not adopt a strategy of being a discount pricer, not to try to compete on price, to establish yourself at the high end of the market, and that'll bring you the kinds of clients that you want to work with. You're going to feel well compensated for the work you do. I can guarantee you're going to be a lot happier in your law practice, and you're going to make a lot more money. So this is the end of lesson 2 on price. Next week we'll start on public seminars and public education and speaking opportunities and those ways of marketing a service. But I wanted first to wrap up this discussion on price because I got so much response from the students out there, so many questions, and I hope I've answered some of those now. And I will see you next time. Thank you.